So I have been tagged or flagged, or I've had some strikes, YouTube strikes against me on presenting medical misinformation. Right, okay. There are protocols now in place that makes YouTube more or less a very inexpensive Stasi network of informants that notify YouTube, never mind their automatic systems of discovering the evildoers like myself who are presenting to the most of the people who can't think for themselves. This must be obviously in play now, the fact that most people can't think for themselves, and YouTube is afraid that the people that can't think for themselves may listen to a lowly artist in the middle of nowhere who has an opinion about something and may present even some facts that are contrary to popular belief or the accustomed or the conformed belief or the compliance with dogma that is out there. I mean, dogma is something that has existed for a long time, and I'm going to briefly talk about something that I got tagged for, flagged for, struck for, and if they find this to be medical misinformation, well, so be it. I'm going to read something now. It's called Germ Theory of Disease. And I have said previously in some of my videos that why would they refer to something that is a fact as still a theory? Because they're acting as though this is germ theory, not germ theory, but germ facts that I'll read. The germ theory of disease is currently accepted scientific theory, again, for many diseases. It states that microorganisms like little terrorists known as pathogens or germs can lead to disease. These small organisms, too small to see without magnification, invade the invaders from another dimension of smallness, humans and other animals and other living hosts. Their growth and reproduction within their host, blah, 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 blah. And so it goes on, and it was considered to be something frowned on in the Middle Ages, because in the Middle Ages they were smarter than we think. They always say, well, you know, the Middle Ages are the stupid people, but what the heck really happened in those Dark Ages or Middle Ages, whatever they're considered? And then, of course, Pasteur came along, and he was propagated as the saint of holy science and understanding. And there was he was discounted completely. Beauchamp was not an adversary, but he presented another possibility to germ theory. He called it terrain theory, I believe. I'm not 100%. I think it's called terrain theory, which suggests that levels of toxicity in any biological organism will lead to disease, illness, and ultimately death. If the toxicity levels are too high, whatever that might be, the chemicals that are around us, not little invading microscopic beings that try to infiltrate our system like terrorists. So the germ theory has been countered quite convincingly as far as I'm concerned. However, there isn't much money to be made on terrain theory because all the toxins that are being produced also provide a lot of money to an industry that thrives on destruction, death, and illness. I mean, if you look at agriculture is just a good example, how the Monsanto types, the Bayer types, are decimating the biology. Only their seeds grow, nothing else grows on whatever land they have put their roundups and all those things. So this is like people get sick because of levels of toxicity, and different bodies have resilience. When we're younger, we tend to have more resilience. So the final note on this is eventually a golden era of bacteriology ensued, during which the germ theory quickly led to the identification of the actual organisms that cause many diseases, meaning that electron microscopes saw these little creatures. I'm not disputing creatures exist, but the idea, they never dropped the term theory. Why not drop the term germ theory, infectious germ theory? make it an infectious germ diseases or an infectious germ fact. Why not? I find this puzzling. I have to say, if somebody has an explanation, why keep the idea of theory? Is it because there is a protocol among liars to also, without saying the truth, actually reveal the truth? Is this a truth drop? And I think it's an important issue considering the shit show we're going through called the beer virus. It's a total shit show, and a shit show based on a theory, something that has never been apparently, it has never been replicated in a lab. In order for science to verify and definitively come to a conclusion, you have to have what is called peer review, and you go through all the stages of proofs, and it has to be able to be reproduced in a controlled environment, in a lab environment. And obviously that has not occurred. Why call it a theory if it has been proven? All right, so here's my question today. This is obviously very disturbing from the point of view that if in fact the people who are orchestrating, I'm not talking about minions and operatives and bureaucrats and all that who are assigned to following the rules and just see through the implementation of the ordinances that come from the germ theory authorities, which are people that have probably no science expertise whatsoever, but see great benefit to having a population under the control of this sort of terrorist idea of disease and illness, something you can't help yourself. You have to go to a white coat to get the help because we only know how the healing part works. Well, that has been completely thrown under the bus. I mean, there are so many alternative ways of dealing with healing. One that I really find quite effective is fasting and deep tissue cleansing or colonics. These have actually managed to maintain my degenerate lifestyle. Not anymore, but my unpleasant habits led me to be in certain ways ill. I think my family comes through a fairly strong constitution. My family is has a history. I think the thousands, tens of millions of years of people maybe on Earth. I have a long line back of probably fairly hardy people. So I have been somewhat resilient to degenerate behavior, like many other people as well. Some people you marvel at how they can eat a hamburger every day and not be, sliding along the floor already. Eventually they will. But anyway, there are alternatives to the proposal that the white coats have. That's what I'm saying. So my thought today is considering the possibility, I'm just saying this to you, I believe for myself, and I understand for myself, that toxicity is the root of our illness and diseases we have. That if we eliminate things from our environment that are toxic, especially food, water, food, if that is in any way tainted, this is going to cumulatively have an effect. So what is going on with a beer virus right now that has shut down everything? Again, this is quite peculiar that certain areas on Earth who subscribe to the idea of this vicious beer virus killing every living human on Earth practically, supposedly, everything has to be shut down. Other localities are completely functioning. I saw there was a hockey game, an arena, I don't know which town it was in, Tampa or New York or wherever. It was filled with people with no mask. The coaches behind the bench all were wearing their diapers, but everybody else in the entire place was completely diaper free. So again, here are the anomalies, the hypocrisies that are going on within the framework. But I'm not interested in talking about the hypocrites that are running the show on the spear virus. What I'm saying is, what if you say, okay, you have a point about germ, infectious germ theory. Why is it still a theory? What is behind? What is behind this? What is behind uh, the possibility of introducing an untested, unproven um, therapy called the Jabberwocky to inoculate the entire planet by 20, I think the first proposal, I think Boris Johnson said he's one of the guys who says, oh, by 2024, 5, everybody on Earth, like Bill Gates, has to be a Jabberwocky. But then he came back and said, well, actually, no, it's a better idea to do it now, to have everybody on Earth vaccinated. So why the rush to something that is unproven, based on a theory, and what's going on? And is it possible, as far as I'm concerned, I have no doubt, that the Jabberwocky is in fact the disease that we are, as an entire Earth, attempting to prevent? This, to me, seems the most plausible explanation. So if you have some kind of intervention that is now occurring that supposedly, here in Ontario, 60% of people supposedly have taken at least one of the Jabberwockies, which I highly doubt, because the more the information, the nonstop, everything has to do with this topic, nonstop. I was listening today to a singer, Katie Cavill, somebody, sort of an exotic last name, Katie, from the group Dizzy, which is a sort of a young bunch of people that are making music and somewhat effective, I suppose. And talking about the interview about her music was basically all about the beer virus, how it has affected their music making and everything. Every single question had to do with the beer virus, not the music that she was making. Of course, roundabout it was about the music, but everything was about always the beer virus. So it's nonstop, 24/7, wall to wall beer virus coverage on anything that you talk about. And she was most happy to comply because she got her 5 minutes of fame on the man's radio, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, who is run out of some kind of dark basement somewhere, no doubt. And it's something that is irritating, not only from all the information, but what irritates is it's so easy to pull off, it seems. It's so easy to pull off, bring on a cute young singer that makes nice, pleasant music, and get them to comply and conform to the idea that this is actually happening. This poor girl, a total coward or ambitious in her life, attempting to promote herself by saying, yes, oh, Buana, oh, great oligarch. Yes, I am all on board. I stayed away from everyone. Even my group members, I stayed away. I didn't have anything to do. Well, how do you feel about that? Well, I find it quite upsetting and unnerving, and I'm very unhappy about it. But, oh no, I will comply. So, just as an example, the continuous coverage on this. So my thought is today that the Jabberwocky, in fact, is the disease. And I was listening to a guy, a narcissist, like this is a die-in-the-wool narcissist. I mean, he is hardcore. A guy called Matt Powerland, who says a lot of great things, Like Owen Benjamin says a lot of great things. You can see how they're very charismatic in what they produce. I don't think Matt Powerland has the following anymore. He was doing quite well for a while. Owen Benjamin, on the other hand, he has figured something out. He's creating a clan. He's creating a clan for himself, and whether he wants to admit it or not, he will be the Koresh of this clan. They've actually hit him on this. They have tried to do a smear piece on him. The dopes in the media tried to do a smear piece on Owen Benjamin. How nuts is that? The guy is on the level. He's creating a very hearty, wholesome, agro-based sort of lifestyle. And why would you trash the guy? Well, he's a danger because his ideas are dangerous. But I also see the personal side of things when you have narcissists and these alpha types running a thing. Hopefully it'll work. Hopefully people will think for themselves and not rely on him to come up with all the answers. He's the kind of person that will just keep on talking and not change the subject. That's the kind of narcissist that we're talking about. But he says a lot of great things. So people who follow him, I encourage you to listen, but keep thinking for yourself. That's what I say. So Matt Powell has made a video on this, especially on Canada, how Canada is so compliant and so in line with this authoritarian direction that we're going into, to just blindly believe everything. And I have a great deal of hope still that the majority of people, 60%, have not been affected by the Jabberwocky, this beer virus. I think it's a lot less. There obviously are a lot of people, but this is going to come back to bite all those who have decided to go with the company line. This is going to bite badly, because if you understand what I said about germ theory, that it's not about little pathogens and viruses invading us, that it's toxicity. What the hell is this Jabberwocky all about? This spear virus was some kind of a program rolled out in order, as Boris Johnson wants to vaccinate and Bill Gates wants to vaccinate, everybody knows this, the entire planet by the end of this year or next year, whenever. So the incubation time for this toxicity to take effect, maybe for some people, for a lot of people, it has already kicked in. And neurological, there have been afflictions across the board on the Jabberwocky, every single one of them. And for anyone that is delusional about this, the idea, I'll just give a little example. Well, we all know about what thalidomide, this wonder drug, did to pregnant women in the 50s. And by the way, that is coming back again, not for pregnant women, but for other kind of discomforts. You have a discomfort and you're looking for a silver bullet. So thalidomide is being introduced again. I can't believe this. But the idea of smallpox, everyone knows that smallpox was one of these invading germ terrorists that was terrorizing the entire planet. Smallpox was a pandemic every year, every 5 years. Countries were decimated by smallpox. Well, the deaths occurred in places that was um, san- uh, very poor sanitation. So as soon as you get plumbing happening, all of a sudden your environment, the toxicities in the environment begin to clear up, like waste, like animal waste, human waste, all that stuff is being properly eliminated. Then you no longer have the toxicities in the environment. And smallpox, by the early 1950s, because of sanitation, had been literally reduced to maybe by 99%. And then the white coats came in and said, hurrah, our Jabberwocky did the job. Meanwhile, it had already been eradicated, and they claimed to be the holy men of holy water. Bless you. Anyway, that's my thought, and I go along with Powerland on this. What it looks like to me, because I know germ theory is just a theory, it's not a fact, it's fabricated, it's something that fits a certain scenario and a narrative, that in fact the Jabberwocky is the issue. The Jabberwocky is the issue, considering the amount of attention it's being given by the obvious totally unqualified people like this Gates guy, who is so hated. He is so hated by everyone I come across. I'm not even like if I felt that sort of a hate, I would want to crawl under a rock. But for some reason, what is that resilience these people have? They have absolutely no sense of themselves in terms of their conscience. And even people, if you know that you're so right and you're brilliant, still people hating you that much, that's got to have an effect, but it appears not to stop anybody. These types that run the show are completely immune to any of our feelings and thoughts. It's like that's goes on. Maybe that I wanted to actually talk about that. How my would it be another? No, I'll keep going for a little bit. Here's the other thing about how there is no effectual change. That even in my history of activism, to the small amount that I was doing, and I don't say I was strong in my activism in terms of being on the barricades and protesting and all this, but even there was an element, and I became a target for certain of these hostile elements in the digital networks. And it did have an effect. It had an effect. But that was the idea, to discourage any kind of dissenting view on something that is happening. So my thought, though, is even if you think of magnificent people, supposedly like Martin Luther King, who revolutionized the idea of uh, segregation. I like to eliminate segregation, all that. The fundamental notions of that concept, I think, are still in place. BLM is a good example that this whole racist attitude is still heavily endorsed and in place, even with the counter of it. I mean, the counter works in order to endorse it. By countering it, you endorse it in a roundabout way. So the whole thing is still functioning top level. That's what I say. And I understand that we have this proclivity, the desire. If you live in your with conscience and you want to act your conscience, you also want to have an effect. But here's the thing: I have not seen, unless you may be able to give me examples where mass protests and stuff worked, appeared to work as well. It's important to say appeared, that there have been changes, but then the old boss and new boss are the same after all the changes happen, right? Robespierre, you have a massive revolution and heads roll, and then the new boss is virtually the same as the old boss. So I'm saying, why does no change happen? And I've mentioned this. I've always said, and this goes back to biblical, it's scriptures where this high functioning individual says the kingdom of heaven is within, which is the formula. It's a simple formula for change. The change is not an external change, the change is an internal change. And people who have this, people have this understanding, but it becomes very difficult to act, I think, because we need to have with our day-to-day life has to be structured primarily from focusing on that inner world. It doesn't mean we don't exist in the world and we survive, we live, we eat, we have relationships with people and we interact, and the world out there exists. But the fundamental important day-to-day challenge for us is to look at ourselves and see how we are developing, evolving, becoming better, doing what we're doing, not because something happens outside, but because something happens within us. I've always liked art for that reason, because it is a direct reflection, no matter what the subject might be. It doesn't matter what the subject is. The art itself shows in some form or other how deeply that artist has gone within themselves in order to produce the work that they're doing. And the most relevant work is work that comes out of the artist with a deep sense of heart of themselves. It doesn't mean they don't have afflictions, and they're even nutbags in many ways, but they have like this area, this maybe for whatever reason, it's a calling that they're able to produce work that reflects their inner self in such a way that it relates to a lot of people. This is beautiful. This is magnificent. It's like I was influenced by artists that were extremely troubled people, but still managed to exorcise enough of their demons in order to produce the work that they did. Anyway, that's my little add-on to the Jabberwocky. It's about the Jabberwocky. The disease is the Jabberwocky, and I think that Matt Powerland had a T-shirt said that the virus is the Jabberwocky. Um, so anyway, I think I'll end it here. It's been 23 minutes, 24 minutes, so I'll see. Maybe this is strikeable. Maybe this is medical misinformation. I can't see how. I am talking about a theory that doesn't apply. It's like a theory that doesn't apply to all the actions people are engaged in right now. It's good for some, but really bad for most.